Liberate IT is an Oracle NetSuite solution provider that has been servicing Australian and New Zealand companies since 2011.
Well, good morning, everyone, to the latest in our ongoing series of free webinars that Liberate IT produce every fortnight. Today, we are going through all things supply allocation and how that relates to demand planning. So really looking forward to today's session. We've got Brett who's joined us, who will take us through all of that new functionality and existing functionality. I'll introduce Brett in just a second. In the meantime, I am Andrew Liniger, the Relationship Manager for Liberate IT. Really looking forward to today's session. Okay, so some upcoming events that I'll just go through at the top is in a fortnight time on 28 April, where I'm going to be joined by one of the Suite app partners, a company called Numeric. It's a sales management tool, so really helpful for organizations that need or who have sales managers that need help motivating and driving their sales team to perform. So really looking forward to that in around a fortnight's time. Coming up in May, we'll return to our internal webinars where we will be talking about optimizing dashboards. So many of you know how to add portlets to your dashboard, but what we're going to do is go into that in a little bit more detail. So I think that will be very beneficial to everyone, whether you're a new user or quite an experienced. Just to reiterate, we've got our 10-year anniversary this year, so looking forward to big things in the second half of the year as borders settle down and everyone can get around again. So looking forward to that. So watch this space for that. In terms of housekeeping, we are recording today's session. We will be posting that on our YouTube page. So if you've missed a recent webinar and you're keen to find out about some of those topics that we've gone through, feel free to go onto YouTube, search on Liberate IT, and you'll find our page there. And that's where we post all of our videos. So it takes us about a week or two just to produce the videos for you, but they'll all get up there. Today, if you've got any questions as we go through, just encourage you to put that on the Q&A section of the webinar. Try not to use the chat function. It just helps us to capture all those questions and make sure that we've got all those there. So Q&A is a place to go. If there's something time relative, I'll interrupt Brett and just ask that question, but otherwise we'll hold those at the end. Okay, introducing Brett Marquette. He is our optimization manager. I make a bit of a note about Brett every webinar that we have, and he's an integral part of the business. He's got a lot of experience, not just with NetSuite, but in operations as well, and is very capable of tying those two things together. So his role is obviously doing, yes, things like this webinar, but also getting out and seeing our customers and helping them with business process improvements and how we can improve NetSuite. So he and I are planning out those visits as we speak. And if you want to get to the top of the queue, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll make sure that Brett gets out to you very shortly. In the meantime, I'll introduce Brett for today's session. So Brett will be going through the supply allocation engine. As he's been going out on a number of optimization visits, this is quite a not simple and easy feature, but it is a feature he's been able to switch on while he's actually been out in the business to help them with that. So we're going to go through what exactly this is and how it actually helps. So without any further ado, we're going to get straight into things, Brett. So I'm going to hand over to you.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. I'll share my screen.
No problem.
Right. Okay. Just let me know if you can't see it, but I assume everybody can see that there's the title for the webinar today, Supply Allocation Engine.
Sure can. Looks great.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Yeah, so this is as Andrew mentioned, this is an extremely useful feature that's available currently in NetSuite, and it's something that I've seen a lot of interest in over the last couple of months. So we'll just go through the feature, and we'll go through some of the setup required with it and exactly what sort of functionality we're going to gain from it. Right, supply allocation engine. So we're looking at this a lot today with when inventory allocation to sales is causing issues within the supply chain, and this is we see a lot of customers currently experiencing issues due to constrained supply, and this feature is allowing some relief, and it's allowing some insight into the supply chain for them, and we'll go through exactly how this works. The big questions, I guess, is what's so great about it? Well, what it allows you to do is future supplies available to be allocated along with current stock on hand. It provides specific insight into supply dates and customer order ETAs. And this is a specific request we're getting a lot from with customers to really just communicate back to the customers of exactly when supply is available. Stock is no longer committed, just to current stock on hand, which is quite important. It creates an allocation to future supply. It can allocate product orders to open POs, containers, and future works orders. It matches a future sales order to a future supply, and it leaves current inventory available to meet new sales orders. So it doesn't commit your currently available stock, which is important. It can match complete order supply or partial supply depending on requirements. And allocation types allow you to specify whether the allocation should be flexible and able to change in the future, or could be firmed up so that it does not become undone by changes that might occur later. So what do we do to enable supply allocation? It's a simple feature. Go into Setup Company, Enable Features, and on the inventory Items and Inventory tab, we check the supply allocation box and click Save. At this point, what it does is it does a data check and to ensure that the system is stable and you can enable the feature. It generally doesn't take too long, but if it depends on the way your system is set up. If there's a successful data check, it allows you to then go through and enable supply allocation. If the data check doesn't run, you need to contact NetSuite support to see what the issue is. So we'll have a little look. And what we've got here is just checking to see whether we've enabled a feature, whether it's held. So enable features, items and inventory, and supply allocation. Here we go. It's been enabled, so that's successful. So the key drivers. What we need to know is to maintain shipping dates or production dates on supply orders, maintaining the required by date to meet the customer delivery on demand orders. NetSuite Supply Allocation Engine will use these to match the demand allocation to the appropriate supply order to fulfill the requirement. We need to set the allocation strategies. We need to look at how we match the supply to our sales order types, which orders take priority, and the rules that will make this happen. So if we look at setup under order management, we've got two options. We've got supply allocation and allocation strategies. This is a test strategy that I've set up, and these are the options that we've worked through in order to create the strategy. Once an order is entered, the rules allocate according to these, the system allocates according to these rules. It will look at the available inventory in stock, as well as the outlined transactions to allocate future inventory to sales orders. Oops, yes, that bounced. Right, here we go. So inventory options. So the first thing is what order types we're selecting to be available. So we're looking at this option here. We're selecting inbound shipments, purchase orders, and transfer orders. We then look at the allocation period, and we can set a limit to a number of days around the required by date. So this is the window, and if it's not within these windows, the allocation is cancelled. So you can set specific timeframes that you need to look at for the allocation. Look at the allocation method, whether we pull available uncommitted inventory before the required by date and before the future supply is received, or allocate the first available supply that is not committed. We look at allocation quantities, so whether we can allocate as a partial allocation or we need to allocate as a complete allocation, so keep that allocation intact. We also need to look at reserved and firmed allocations. It can be allocated to orders by the system, or it cannot be allocated other than manually. Right. What we also then have is we have the supply allocation. So this is when we take our rules and we set it into the preference. So as you see, I'm using my test allocation strategy for both scenarios here on sales order or transfer orders. So these are sorting options for demand transactions. So the options include commitment confirmed, expected ship date, the order number, the order priority, order quantity, quantity allocated, quantity fulfilled, supply required by date, and transaction date. So on this particular scenario, we're selecting our sorting requirements as supply required by date, the order priority, and then the transaction date. And we're going to perform allocation after each transaction entry, update, or delete. If we don't select this, it will become a manual process. So we select the strategies we want to use under order allocation strategies. And we saw that just before. So again, I'm using my standard test scenario in both of these environments. We then have to look at the item setup, and there's one key field driver under the item, and that is the ATP lead time. So we set this. If no current or future order is available, supply allocation will use this lead time to calculate the item availability date for demand orders in each of the locations set. Right, so sales order and purchase order functionality. Demand, now that we've done this, is being linked through defined allocation strategies to future supply. This is displayed at line level on both the sales order and on the purchase order. The first thing that we notice is the addition of a clickable allocated supply field on the sales order, and there's an allocated demand field on the purchase order. So what does this look like? What do we get? So here's a sales order, and there's the allocated supply field. If we click on this, we can see that that current allocation is to committed inventory. So it's stock on hand. We also get another couple of key fields on the line, and we can see that on the line, we can see the allocation strategy that's been applied. So in this case, here's my BNM test environment, my test strategy. Now we also see that there's fields for supply required by date, which is the key driver for when the customer wants it, and the expected ship date. As we saw before, what happens is that on the supply, the allocated supply field, we see where that supply is committed to. Again, this is current stock on hand. But what if the order is 3 months out? Well, the key point is it doesn't allocate to the current inventory, and it matches demand to the closest supply order, which is important because you're making sure that you're pulling from the correct timeline. And now we can see that this purchase order, supply order is coming in May. Purchase order allocations. So we have the allocated demand field on purchase orders, and we can see where the demand is for the supply. So we're seeing what sales orders this current purchase order has allocated to it. We also get order management functionality. So the management of demand and supply allocations is through these two NetSuite functions. We have allocate orders, so that allocates supply to order demand, and this can be done either manually or it can be scheduled as a process. We also have reallocated items. We allocate items to distribute inventory between open orders, and this is probably a function that a lot of you are already familiar with. So we'll see that we get these two functions, allocate orders, and reallocate items. Right, reallocate items. If we need to commit specific quantities against specific orders when that product comes in. So what we can do is we can readjust the quantity, because inevitably things do change and we do need to reallocate, and we sometimes know things that the system doesn't. So let's have a little look at just reallocating items. We'll jump in, reallocate items, put in the item. Down here somewhere, there it is. And then define the location. Here we go. So I'm going to change from 2 that's already committed and allocated. I'm going to put all the supply into the 10 that's required for this order. Submit and done. But if things move a lot, there's the reallocate orders function, and this is a more powerful tool. This can be run either manually, like I said, or on a schedule to review commitments and reallocate based on the defined criteria. Oops, sorry, I've jumped ahead too. Right. So when we run this as a schedule, this can be run. It can be run hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, twice a year, or annually. It will reallocate based on order definitions and allocation strategy. Based on the amendments to POs, sales orders or POs, it will reallocate schedule as long as lines are not set as firm. And if they are, it will not move them. So NetSuite Supply Allocation Engine. In summary, future supply orders are made available to demand order allocations. Supply dates on sales orders are more transparent, and this facilitates improved customer feedback. Stock is no longer just committed to current stock on hand. There is increased visibility up the supply chain. Product orders can be allocated to open POs, containers, and future works orders where required. A future sales order can be matched to future supply, leaving the current inventory available to be consumed by current sales orders. And that's quite important, especially in an environment where you're having web orders that are immediate supply. You don't want to commit or make stock unavailable when you've got orders that are required literally today or in the next couple of days. It can match complete order supply or partial, depending on the requirements. And allocation types allow you to specify whether the allocation should be flexible and able to change in the future, or firmed up so that it does not become undone by changes that might occur later. So that's pretty much the overview of the supply allocation engine. It's a very, very useful tool. Encourage you to look at it. Put it in your sandbox environment, test it, have a look at what it'll do for you. And if you do need help, give us a bell. We're only too happy to help you set it up and to run you through what the functions are and any requirements that you may have with it. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today. And I'll hand you back to Andrew. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brett. That was short, sharp, and to the point. That's good. I do have a quick question from Claire. He's asked, does ATP lead time need to be set on all inventory items for supply allocation to work?
It will give you it basically will set a default time frame for it. So if you don't have it on there, you won't get an allocation time frame with it.
Okay, so it does a default, does it? But
yeah, so it gives you,
can adjust it after.
Yeah, that's right. It gives you a default time. So if you don't set it, then you'll have no default time. It'll become undefined.
Okay, that's great, Brett. So in terms of ongoing management of the supply allocation engine, what part of NetSuite is all that done from? Is there a screen that manages all that for you, or? where you can go to look?
So yeah, so you've got your setup functions, if you like. So you've got your setup feature. Then you've got your two functions with your setting your strategies,
yep.
And then you've got your order allocations, your item allocations, and then the functionality for actually looking at those allocations are through the sales order and through the purchase order.
Great. Okay, fantastic. Well, I don't have any other questions that have come through, so I might quickly take over and wrap things up, if that's okay. Look, thanks, Brett, for taking us through that. It's a useful feature, I think, as I've talked to customers in the past around, I guess, customer outcomes for them. Being able to deliver their products in full and on time is crucial, right? So, and you're obviously at the mercy of your own suppliers. So this kind of feature ties all that in together for our customers. So that's really great. As we wrap up, really keen to understand from anyone if there's an area of NetSuite you'd like to learn more of. Please email me any suggestions. The next training session around dashboards has actually come from one of those, so really keen to get your feedback. We're really interested in shaping our training series based on what you're after rather than what we think you need. Really looking forward to that in-person event coming up. I'll put in a quick plug as well while I'm here and I've got you all. A relatively new feature from NetSuite is their Learning Cloud Support Pass Company Edition, which allows you to provide an LCS pass for every one of your employees and set them up on training plans and ensure that they're getting the most out of those LCS passes. So it's one fee, and it applies to every user that you have set up in NetSuite, whether it's a full access user, employee center user. So I would encourage you to have a look at that. We put that out on our info hub I think it was last week. So check that out. If you've got any questions on that, please let me know. But it's a really useful tool to make sure that the business is staying on top of all things in NetSuite. The paid passes also have access to webinars that NetSuite produce on a monthly basis as well. So we find that those are very useful also. All right, so just to wrap up then, we've got just a little bit of housekeeping in terms of, yes, we're recording the session today. We will be posting that on our YouTube page, so please check that out, Liberate IT. And that is really it. If you've got any follow-up questions that you're going to ask after we've wrapped up today, please email that through to me and I'll make sure that we get those questions answered. And really looking forward to our next session with one of our suite app providers. So without any further ado, I will wrap up and have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
We hope this video gave you the information you were after. If you have any further questions, get in touch with us using the links in the description. At Liberate IT, we can provide free consulting to understand your business system requirements, understand your company growth plans, and provide free NetSuite demonstrations. For more information, visit our website.